Human rescues alien girl lost in the dark zone, but human finds light reacting to her pulse. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Ethan Ward steadied his breath as the hatch behind him hissed shut, sealing him inside the abandoned sector known across the station as the Dark Zone. The air turned colder instantly, biting through the thin seams of his rescue suit. His visor fogged at the edges despite the heater pack humming at full power. 20 feet ahead, the corridor stretched like a cracked metal throat, lit only by the faint pulse of a failing emergency strip. Every flicker painted the world in harsh white flashes, revealing floating dust, half-collapsed support beams, and the distant groan of a structure older than most countries on Earth. His handheld scanner vibrated against his palm, a stuttering, weak life signal, faint as a whisper. "You'd better not be another broken relay," he muttered, adjusting the device. But the signal didn't fade. It trembled, like a heartbeat too tired to keep pace, buried somewhere deeper in the dark. Ethan tightened the strap across his chest and pushed forward, boots tapping softly on the metal grating. The echo followed him like a second shadow. The Dark Zone always made people speak quieter, move slower, breathe softer. Folks said the place felt alive. Ethan never bought that, until the hallway lights behind him blinked out, one by one, as if something swallowed them. His helmet lamp clicked on automatically, a narrow beam cutting through the dark. "Great," he whispered. "Real welcoming." A loose cable brushed his shoulder, making him flinch. He exhaled sharply, shaking off the tension. Normal hazards. Just old wiring. Just an aging station. Just another salvage run he wasn't even assigned to. Except no salvage beacon carried a pulse. Ethan stopped when the scanner spiked for half a second before dropping again. Close. Very close. He eased through a warped doorway, the metal bent inward like something had pushed from the other side. His lamp swept the room, abandoned tools, a cracked workstation, dust swirling in slow motion, and then it froze on a small shape curled near a maintenance panel. A girl. Not human. Her skin held a faint blue-violet shimmer even in the dark, like moonlight trapped under the surface. Her hair spilled around her shoulders in soft strands, tangled with dust. A breathing mask hung crooked across her face, barely connected to an old portable tank blinking low. Ethan's heart kicked once, hard. She looked young, lost, exhausted. He stepped closer, careful not to startle her, lowering his voice to a warm murmur. "Hey, I see you. You're not alone." As if responding to the sound, her eyelids fluttered. For a second, he saw the dim glow beneath her skin brighten. Not bright enough to light the room, just enough to flicker with her pulse. His scanner wasn't broken. The life signal was hers. And the light was, too. Ethan crouched beside her, pulse rising, unsure whether the strange glow meant danger or hope. "All right," he breathed, reaching for the oxygen line. "Let's get you out of here." The room stayed silent, but the faint glow along her arms flickered again, steadying, sinking, matching the pace of her heartbeat. And when his hand brushed her wrist, the light reacted once more, blooming gently like a response. The Dark Zone had been silent for years, but now, it felt like it was watching them both. For a moment Ethan could only hear his own breathing inside the helmet, steady but too loud in the stillness. The girl's faint glow pulsed against the metal floor like soft reflections from distant stars. He steadied his hand before touching the loose oxygen line, careful not to move her too quickly. Her breathing mask flickered with a weak indicator light, blinking slower than it should. "Stay with me," he whispered, adjusting the connector and letting a fresh stream of air flow into the mask. Her chest rose a little deeper. Not much, just enough for him to feel the tension in his shoulders ease. The scanner at his belt let out a soft tone, confirming stabilization. Ethan exhaled slowly, then shifted his attention to the room. The Dark Zone felt heavier here. Panels along the wall were snapped open, cables hanging like frozen vines. Whatever had happened had left the place suspended in time, untouched, unmoved. Quietly waiting, he slid one arm under her shoulders, surprised by how light she felt. not fragile, but almost buoyant, as if gravity hesitated around her. As he lifted her slightly, the glow beneath her skin brightened once, then softened again, syncing with the rhythm of her pulse. Ethan took that as permission to continue. He adjusted his grip and rose carefully. The narrow beam from his helmet lamp illuminated tiny motes drifting around them, catching the faint glow from her skin and scattering it into scattered flecks of purple light. It felt almost like holding a piece of a night sky. She stirred against him, just slightly. Her eyes did not open, but her fingers twitched near his chest plate. Ethan spoke softly, keeping his tone warm. "You are safe. I promise you that." A soft hum traveled through the floor, a vibration he had not felt earlier. He paused, listening. The dark zone rarely shifted. It was supposed to be inert, sealed off, half asleep. But now the metal around him carried a low resonance, almost like a reply to the alien girl's steadying heartbeat. He tightened his grip and angled his head toward the corridor outside. His helmet display marked the safest route back, but the path looked narrower than before. A collapsed strut had dropped slightly from the ceiling, cutting the corridor into a tight squeeze. He measured the angle with a practiced eye. He could fit through it while carrying her, but it would be close. With a quiet breath, he turned sideways and stepped toward the gap. The girl's glow cast faint ripples of light against the metal walls. Her presence made the dark feel warmer, almost alive. As Ethan eased through the narrow space, the metal groaned softly, but nothing shifted further. He stepped through and found the corridor beyond even darker than before. His helmet lamp reached only a few yards ahead, swallowed by the void beyond. The station lights still refused to come back. Ethan checked her pulse with the edge of his thumb against her wrist. The glow responded immediately, pulsing brighter when his skin met hers. It was not bright enough to guide him, but it was enough to tell him one thing. She was holding on, and somehow, the dark zone was listening to her. Ethan continued forward with steady steps, each one echoing softly under his boots. The station around him whispered with distant creaks, like an old house remembering footsteps. He spoke again, more for her than for himself. "We are getting out of here. Just keep breathing." The corridor stretched deeper, but Ethan never slowed. Her pulse glowed against his chest like a quiet beacon, guiding him through the dark. The narrow corridor opened into a wider chamber, a circular maintenance hub where multiple pathways intersected like spokes of a wheel. Ethan paused at the threshold, adjusting his stance so the girl rested more securely against him. Her glow dimmed and brightened in a soft rhythm, not strong enough to light the room, but enough to cast gentle reflections on the metal beneath his boots. The air felt different here, warmer, as if the temperature regulator in this section still worked despite the rest of the dark zone falling silent years ago. Ethan shifted his helmet lamp toward the center of the chamber. A tall column rose from floor to ceiling, covered in smooth panels and faint markings. It was an older design, older than anything the station currently used. He had seen old schematics during training, but none of them looked like this. The column pulsed once, so subtly that he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. Then the glow beneath the alien girl's skin answered with a quiet shimmer. Ethan froze for half a second, watching the faint exchange like someone watching two strangers recognize each other without words. "What are you?" he whispered, though it was not a question meant for her to answer. She breathed out softly, the sound barely audible through her mask. He took one careful step forward, keeping her close. A gentle vibration rolled through the floor, too smooth to be machinery failing and too steady to be random. He checked his wrist display. No signals, no warnings, no explanation. Just the quiet heartbeat against his chest, and the growing sense that the station was responding to her presence. Ethan adjusted his hold and moved along the edge of the chamber toward the exit he believed led closest to an active access shaft. His map flickered twice, then stabilized enough to show a narrow route. As he stepped forward, the column in the center emitted a soft hum. It was not loud, not sharp, but warm, almost comforting, like the low resonance of a singing bowl. The girl's glow brightened, answering that hum the way a fire responds to a breath of air. Ethan whispered, "It is all right. I have you." He did not know if she understood, but her fingers brushed lightly against his suit, a small movement that steadied his pace. When he reached the next corridor, he aimed his helmet lamp down its length. The walls were lined with panels etched with faded patterns, and the floor had a faint reflective sheen. A very old maintenance system tried to activate somewhere overhead, producing a soft crackle before falling quiet again. Ethan stepped inside, keeping his focus tight. The path was clearer here, less debris, more open space, and fewer collapsed beams. It was almost as if the station had kept this hall intact on purpose. The thought made him inhale sharply, but he pushed it aside. The girl needed oxygen, shelter, and a medical scan. Those were the only priorities that mattered. As he continued forward, the soft glow from her pulse began to reflect off the corridor walls, scattering tiny ripples of purple light that made the air seem gentler. Ethan found himself slowing, watching how the reflections moved as though carried by a quiet breeze. Something within the station shifted again, a smooth, almost reassuring tone that vibrated along the metal plates under his boots. With every step, it felt as if the dark zone was no longer pushing him away but guiding him deeper. He tightened his grip around the girl, angled his lamp forward, and whispered softly, "Stay with me. We are getting close." Her pulse glowed in return, a calm, steady rhythm that felt like a promise in the dark. The corridor gradually sloped downward, and Ethan adjusted his footing as the metal beneath his boots shifted from smooth plating to a textured surface meant for traction. The temperature rose another few degrees, enough to fog the edges of his visor and warm the air in each breath. The alien girl's pulse glowed softly against his chest, steady now, no longer flickering with weakness. The rhythm comforted him in a way he had not expected. It felt like walking through the dark while carrying a living lantern. Ethan glanced at his wrist display. The oxygen level in her small tank stabilized after his adjustment, but it would not last forever. He needed a sealed chamber, or an auxiliary air node, something he could trust long enough to run diagnostics. His lamp caught a faint shimmer ahead. At first he thought it was dust, but dust did not move with intention. The light rippled along the wall like heat distortion, then faded when he stepped closer. He whispered to her, "Easy. We are all right." Her fingers twitched again, curling slightly against the fabric of his suit. The response was faint but real. The corridor widened without warning, opening into another circular room, smaller than the last one but filled with unfamiliar consoles arranged in a half circle. The panels were dark, but their surfaces carried the same ancient markings he had seen on the tall column earlier. Ethan approached cautiously. His helmet lamp revealed no danger, only the soft hum of systems that had been quiet for decades. When he stepped closer with her in his arms, a gentle tone sounded beneath his boots, almost like a chime acknowledging their presence. Then, in a soft ripple, tiny points of light spread across one of the console surfaces. The lights did not form symbols or words. They simply glowed, pulsing slowly, matching the alien girl's heartbeat as if the console were breathing with her. Ethan's breath caught. He felt her pulse respond, glowing a fraction brighter. The connection between her and this room was unmistakable. She belonged here in a way he could not explain. He shifted her weight slightly to keep her comfortable and whispered, "Whatever this place is, it knows you." The console responded with another pulse of faint light, then dimmed again. Ethan scanned the chamber with his lamp until he spotted a low bench built into the wall, cushioned with fabric that somehow remained intact after years of abandonment. He moved toward it and gently lowered her onto the soft surface. Her glow dimmed for a moment, as if adjusting to the new position. Ethan knelt beside her and checked the oxygen line. Everything still held. He brushed a strand of her blue-violet hair away from her mask so it would not interfere with the airflow. Her eyes remained closed, peaceful yet distant, as though she were listening to something he could not hear. As he reached for his portable scanner, the room shifted again. The soft hum deepened, echoing through the walls in slow, rhythmic waves. The consoles brightened. Lines of light formed. Patterns along the floor, not bright enough to illuminate fully but enough to outline where he stood. Ethan inhaled steadily, steadying his hands. The station was responding directly to her pulse. He had never seen technology behave that way. He spoke softly, his voice steady despite the wonder pressing against his ribs. "If you can hear me, keep holding on. I am not leaving you." The glow beneath her skin shimmered once more, gentle and warm, like an answer whispered back to him in the quietest part of the dark. For several quiet seconds, Ethan remained kneeling beside her, listening to the low hum that rolled through the chamber like a gentle tide. The air grew warmer still, settling around them in soft waves that made the room feel less like a forgotten mechanical vault and more like a protected sanctuary. The dim lights on the consoles flickered again, but their rhythm stayed perfectly aligned with the slow rise and fall of her breathing. Ethan lifted his hand, running the scanner along her arm with a steady touch. The readings came back faint but clear. Hydration low. Oxygen saturation improving. Heart rhythm stable but fragile. Nothing he could fix with his limited kit, but nothing immediately dangerous if he could keep her oxygen flowing. He exhaled in relief. The faint shimmer under her skin responded to his breath, as if she heard it. "You are doing great," he whispered. "Just rest." He adjusted the fabric cushion beneath her head and made sure the oxygen mask sat securely. Then he stood and swept his helmet lamp slowly around the room, studying every console and marking. The markings resembled patterns he had seen in old xenobiology reports, but those belonged to extinct cultures, civilizations whose technology operated on resonance rather than circuitry. He had always dismissed those reports as speculation. Yet the evidence glowed right in front of him, pulsing in harmony with the girl's heartbeat. He approached one of the consoles, careful not to touch it. The panel sensed his proximity and lit up with faint blue rings that rippled outward like the surface of a pond brushed by wind. They dimmed when he stepped back. They brightened again when her glow pulsed. The connection could not be coincidence. Ethan returned to her side. Her breathing steadied further, her chest rising and falling in soft, even movements. The warmth in the chamber made her seem almost at peace, and for a moment Ethan allowed himself to hope she would wake soon. As he checked her tank again, a whisper of motion caught his eye. Not movement, but light. A gentle spill of purple shimmer flowed along the seam of the wall, faint but deliberate, tracing a thin path across the floor toward another exit on the far side. Ethan stared at it, unsure if he imagined the motion. The glow paused, flickered, then drifted another inch like a thread being pulled through fabric. It stopped when the girl's pulse softened, then resumed when her heartbeat steadied. "Are you showing me something?" he asked under his breath. The glow brightened for a moment as if in quiet agreement. Ethan rose again, careful not to disturb her. He followed the soft shimmer with measured steps. When he neared the far exit, the panel beside it blinked once, then twice, as though recognizing a familiar signature. The door did not open, but the faint hum behind the wall grew smoother, like a hidden system waking. He returned to her side, his thoughts racing. The station's forgotten systems had not responded to him at all, only to her. She was the key, though he did not know to what. He gently placed a hand over her wrist again, and her glow brightened at the contact, warm and steady. A soft sound escaped her, not a word, more like a sigh of recognition. Ethan leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "It is all right. I am here. I will not leave you." The chamber seemed to settle around them, as if the entire place exhaled with her, sinking into a quiet harmony that wrapped both of them in calm. Her glow pulsed once more, soft and trusting, like a quiet answer in the dark. The soft shimmer along the far wall continued its slow path, like a quiet invitation woven from light itself. Ethan watched it while keeping one hand on the alien girl's wrist, feeling the gentle pulse beneath her skin. The rhythm was stronger now, steadier, as if the room itself helped her breathe. Her glow washed softly across her arm with every heartbeat, casting delicate purple reflections on the metal bench. He whispered, "You are getting stronger. That is good." The shimmer on the wall brightened slightly at the sound of his voice, then dimmed again when her pulse settled. It was reacting to both of them, but mostly to her. Ethan moved his helmet lamp back toward her face. The mask was secure. The oxygen flow was stable, but her breathing had developed a subtle hitch. Not of weakness, but of effort, as if her mind was trying to surface through layers of exhaustion. Slowly, her eyelashes fluttered. Ethan held perfectly still, letting the moment move on its own. Her eyes opened just a sliver, revealing irises that carried the same faint glow as the markings on the consoles. The color was a mix of blue and violet, swirling like nebula clouds. She blinked once, slow and heavy, her gaze unfocused but aware. Ethan softened his voice. "Hey, you are safe. I found you in the passage. You were out of air." Her gaze drifted toward him, studying the shape of his helmet. The faint glow under her skin brightened, reacting to her awareness. She whispered something, the sound so quiet his suit's audio barely caught it. It was not in any human language, but the tone carried a meaning he could feel even without translation. A plea, a memory, a question. Ethan nodded gently, even though she might not understand. I am Ethan. I am here to help you. Her hand shifted toward him, slow and trembling. When her fingertips brushed the fabric over his wrist, the chamber responded immediately. The consoles flared softly. The floor hummed. The thin trail of light along the wall brightened like a path being marked. Ethan steadied her hand so she would not strain herself. Easy. Just breathe. Her voice came again, still faint. This time the sound shaped itself into a clearer pattern, almost forming his name, but catching on the unfamiliar consonants. She closed her eyes briefly, as if exhausted from trying. He shook his head softly. It is all right. You do not need to talk. She opened her eyes again, slower this time. They remained fixed on him with an expression he understood instantly. Confusion, fear, hope, all tangled into one fragile moment. The consoles pulsed brighter, their light washing across the chamber floor in ripples that moved outward. The shimmering trail on the wall stretched farther toward the sealed exit, revealing long, graceful arcs etched into the metal. They looked almost like a map. Ethan glanced at the trail, then back at her. Is this where you were trying to go? Her glow brightened in a gentle flash, her pulse responding in perfect sync. Ethan inhaled, feeling the quiet certainty settle over him. She had not wandered into the dark zone by accident. She had been searching for something, or returning to something. He rose slowly and checked the oxygen tank again, making sure it would hold long enough for him to carry her. The hum in the chamber softened, almost like encouragement. Ethan leaned close and spoke with quiet steadiness. I will take you. Wherever this place needs us to go, we will go together. Her glow pulsed one more time, soft and warm, like trust blooming in the dark. Ethan adjusted the straps around her oxygen tank and gently lifted her again, feeling her steady pulse against his chest. The faint glow beneath her skin warmed his suit, as though she carried a small sunrise inside her. The shimmering trail of light along the wall brightened in soft pulses, pointing toward the sealed exit like a quiet guide. The chamber's hum shifted when Ethan stepped toward it, not louder, but deeper, almost as if the station recognized their intention. He paused beside the strange console one last time, watching the way its surface breathed with her rhythm. The lights dimmed when he turned away, as though saving their strength. He whispered, All right, show us the way. The thin line of light along the floor responded instantly, stretching farther toward the far exit. Ethan followed the glowing path at a careful pace, making sure her breathing stayed even. As he neared the exit panel, the wall markings shimmered more intensely, creating faint arcs of violet that swept across the metal surface in quiet invitation. Then, without warning, Ethan's wrist display buzzed. A weak static-filled transmission crackled through his helmet. At first it was only noise, but then a voice broke through. Rescue Tech Ethan Ward, respond immediately. Your beacon shows movement deep inside the restricted zone. Ethan froze, his grip tightening protectively around her. Commands sounded distant, voices layered with static. Ward, do you read? You are entering a sealed sector. Return to safe corridors at once. He closed his eyes for a moment. He knew the protocol. He knew what command would tell him next, even before they said it. The dark zone was not mapped anymore. It was considered unsafe, unpredictable, off-limits. No rescue was authorized beyond certain boundaries. Her glow pulsed faintly, brushing warmth against his chest like a quiet plea. Ethan opened his eyes and whispered, Not leaving. The transmission sputtered again, then faded completely, swallowed by the station's thick plating. The silence that followed felt like the station itself closing a door behind him. The trail of light along the floor brightened again, patient and steady. Ethan shifted his helmet lamp toward the exit panel and stepped closer. As soon as her glow neared the metal surface, the etched markings lit up in a single smooth wave. The panel resonated with a soft tone, warm and low, like the sound of a breeze moving through crystal. Slowly, the sealed door slid open. No alarms. No resistance. Just quiet recognition. The corridor beyond was wider, gently curved, lined with translucent panels that flickered to life as they entered. The light inside them matched the color of her pulse. Ethan stepped into the new hallway, marveling at how pristine it looked. No dust, no debris, no sign of decay. The air here felt different, almost filtered, like this part of the station had been waiting. Her eyes fluttered open again as the light washed over her face. She looked forward, and for the first time she showed a hint of understanding. She whispered one soft word, a single breath shaped like memory. Ethan did not recognize the language, but he recognized the emotion behind it. Home. He tightened his grip around her carefully. We will get you there, he murmured. The panels along the walls pulsed once more, as if acknowledging the promise. With her steady pulse guiding the lights ahead, Ethan continued deeper into the heart of the dark zone, unaware that command had already marked him as missing. But he felt none of that fear, only the quiet certainty that he was exactly where he needed to be, carrying the only person this forgotten place still remembered. The corridor curved gently, the lights within the translucent panels rising and falling in perfect harmony with her pulse. Ethan carried her deeper, his steps slow and deliberate, guided by the glowing path that unfolded ahead like a living thread. The air here felt warmer, almost soft, and for the first time since entering the dark zone, he sensed a hint of purpose in the quiet. The station was not just responding to her. It was preparing for her. Her breathing steadied against his chest, and the faint glow under her skin brightened enough to cast gentle reflections across his visor. She was still weak, but not fading. Something in this place was helping her, embracing her presence with every soft hum that passed through the walls. Ethan whispered, "You are getting stronger." She shifted slightly, her head resting against his shoulder, eyes half open. Her gaze drifted to the illuminated panels, recognition flickering across her features. She raised one trembling hand toward the lights, as if greeting an old friend. The station reacted instantly. A soft wave of light washed down the corridor ahead of them, moving like a ripple across calm water. The hum deepened, warm and resonant. Ethan tightened his grip around her to support her arm. "You know this place," he said quietly. Her fingers curled slightly, acknowledging, though she was still too drained to speak more. They reached a broad doorway at the end of the corridor. Unlike the other panels, this one was carved with intricate arcs and symbols, glowing softly even before they approached. Ethan paused. The symbols were beautiful, almost like constellations twisted into symmetrical patterns. As soon as her glow neared them, the carvings awakened, lighting up in flowing waves. The door slid open with silent grace. No dust, no resistance, just a warm breath of fresh air flowing outward. Ethan stepped inside and immediately understood why she had been trying to reach this place. The chamber was vast, circular, and breathtaking. The ceiling arched high above, lined with shimmering strands of light that pulsed gently like suspended auroras. At the center stood a round platform surrounded by softly glowing pillars. Each pulse from her skin made the pillars brighten and soften in perfect rhythm. Ethan felt her body respond. Her pulse quickened, but not from fear, from recognition. Her eyes opened fully for the first time, their swirling blue-violet depths reflecting the light around them. She whispered a word again, slightly clearer this time. Ethan listened to the sound, gentle and reverent, carrying the tone of someone returning where they belonged. The room responded with a soft chime that rang through the walls, wrapping around both of them like a whisper of welcome. "It knows you," Ethan murmured. "This whole place does." She lifted, her hand again with effort, reaching toward the central platform. Ethan understood. He carried her carefully across the smooth floor, each step matching the rhythm of her breathing. When they reached the platform, the pillars brightened, and a soft field of light rose from the center, swirling in gentle spirals. She exhaled shakily, her fingers brushing the light. The glow beneath her skin brightened instantly, cascading along her arms and across her cheeks like returning color. Her eyes shimmered, not with fear, with memory. Ethan whispered, "Take your time. I am right here." As her hand rested in the rising light, the spirals shifted, forming patterns that mirrored the markings on her skin. A warm breeze circled the platform, lifting her hair slightly as though the room itself breathed around her. For the first time since he had found her, she looked at him with clarity. She whispered softly, her voice fragile but full of meaning. Ethan did not know her language, but he understood the sentiment behind every syllable. "Thank you." He nodded, standing close, steadying her hand as the chamber awakened around them, light gathering like dawn breaking inside the heart of an ancient world. The spirals of light around the platform rose higher, swirling upward in gentle patterns that cast shifting reflections across the chamber walls. Ethan stood close enough to feel the warmth radiating from the glowing currents, but not so close as to disrupt the harmony forming around her. Her hand remained suspended in the luminous field, fingers trembling ever so slightly as the room responded to her presence. The pillars brightened one by one, breathing with her pulse. The air vibrated with a soft resonance, like the echo of a choir just beneath the edge of hearing. She drew in a deeper breath, steady and full, and her eyes flickered with understanding as if memories were stitching themselves back together inside her. Ethan watched her expression shift gently, not with pain, but with clarity. It was like seeing someone wake from a long sleep and finally remember their own name. Her gaze drifted up toward the spirals of light, then back to him. The glow in her eyes softened when they met his, like she saw him clearly for the first time. Ethan whispered, "You remember." She nodded faintly, her voice barely audible. The words she spoke this time carried both certainty and gratitude. Her glow intensified in response, washing across the platform in warm waves. The pillars answered by sending a cascade of shimmering light toward the ceiling, illuminating engraved patterns that had been hidden in the dark for decades. Ethan looked up, awe settling over him as the patterns joined together like constellations forming a map of some forgotten sky. The chamber's hum deepened again, smoother and fuller, as though the entire room had been waiting for her return. When the spirals of light settled into a gentle ring around her, she lowered her hand from the glowing field. The light followed her fingertips for a moment, stretching like silk before fading softly back into the platform. She swayed slightly, her strength not fully restored yet. Instinctively, Ethan stepped forward and steadied her by placing a hand along her upper arm. Her glow brightened at the contact, warm and calm, as though his presence grounded her. She looked down at his hand, then up at him, her expression open and sincere. Slowly, she placed her own hand over his, her touch light but deliberate. The room reacted instantly. A soft wave of pale violet light traveled from the base of the pillars outward, filling the chamber with a gentle radiance. The air warmed further, settling into a peaceful stillness that wrapped around them like a promise. She whispered his name for the first time, shaping it carefully, her accent turning it into something softer and more melodic. Ethan had never heard his name spoken like that before. She took a slow breath, gathering her voice. When she finally spoke, the words were simple, but their meaning resonated with the quiet power of truth. "You brought me home." Ethan stayed silent for a moment, the weight of her words sinking gently into him. He glanced around the chamber, watching the soft pulses of light still echoing from the walls, then looked back at her. "You were never alone," he said softly. "Not while I was here." Her fingers tightened slightly around his hand, not in urgency, but in quiet understanding. A final wave of light rippled outward from the platform, brightening the room in one radiant sweep before settling into a calm, steady glow. No alarms, no warnings, just silence filled with meaning. Ethan and the alien girl stood in the heart of the awakened chamber, her pulse glowing gently beneath her skin, reflected in his visor like two small stars meeting in the dark. And for the first time since he had entered the dark zone, there was no fear, only light.